All right, we are back talking about example 4. This is a multi-step application, and I'm not going to lie to you, this is a doozy of an application. So we are just going to take this bad boy one step at a time. All right, it says Jamie spends the same amount of money each morning. On Sunday, he bought a newspaper for $1.25 and also bought 2 donuts. On Monday, he bought a newspaper for 50 cents and bought 5 donuts. On Tuesday, he spent the same amount of money and bought just donuts. How many donuts did he buy on Tuesday? So let's go ahead and just take this one sentence of a time. So the first thing it says is Jamie spends the same amount of money each morning. Now, what exactly does that mean? Well, what were the mornings? There was Sunday, I see Monday, I see Tuesday, right? So it's just Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So basically that means Sunday he spent the same thing. I don't like that color. It just doesn't look good. So Sunday he spent the same amount as he did on Monday, and they spent the same amount on Tuesday. So the cost was the same for each morning. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to break down the cost for each day. So let's look at the first day. It says on Sunday, he bought a newspaper for $1.25 and also bought 2 donuts. On Monday, he bought a newspaper for 50 cents and bought 5 donuts. And on Tuesday, he spent the same amount of money and bought just donuts. You know what we need to do before we do that is we need to define our variable. So this is a little bit tougher because you know how sometimes I'm like, oh, just look in the question, and then it says how many donuts did he buy on Tuesday. So there you go. It's right there, donuts. So number of donuts. That's what we're trying to figure out. So let's say let D equal number of donuts he bought. All right. So okay, so now we're going to break it up day by day. So on Sunday he bought, Sunday he bought a newspaper for, newspaper for $1.25 and also bought 2 donuts. Okay, so the total cost for Sunday, I'm going to say Sunday, the cost for Sunday, I'm just going to say S for Sunday, okay? Sunday equals $1.25 for the newspaper, and then they bought 2 donuts. Oh, we know how many donuts he bought there. I guess what D is going to equal, I'm sorry, it's not going to equal the number of donuts. That's why I was saying this is kind of misleading. We need to figure out how many donuts he bought on Tuesday, but what we don't know here is we know the amount of donuts he bought. We just don't know the cost. He bought newspaper for 50 cents and bought 5 donuts. So what we're going to say is we're going to say let D equal number of donuts. You know what? We can just leave it like that. Let D equal number of donuts. That's fine. And we're going to say and C is going to equal the cost per donut because we don't know that either. So the cost per donut. So for Sunday, this is the total cost for Sunday equals $1.25 for this newspaper and also 2 donuts. So they bought 2 donuts, but we don't know the cost of each donut. So it's going to be plus 2C. Now this represents the total cost for Sunday, and these are the parts. So we have a total cost and the parts that make up that total cost. So $1.25 for the newspaper, and then they bought 2 donuts at a cost per donut. We don't know. We have to figure that out. Okay? So that is Sunday. Let's move on to the next day, which would be Monday. It says on Monday, he bought a newspaper for 50 cents, so newspaper for 50 cents, and bought 5 donuts. So here we know the number of donuts, but we don't know the amount for each donut. So we're going to call this Monday. So this is the total cost for Monday. Total cost equals the parts. Well, what made up the parts of the total cost? Well, 50 cents for the newspaper. 50 cents for the newspaper and bought plus 5 donuts, and the cost per donut is C. Okay, so that is the equation for the total cost for Monday. And then there's Tuesday. It says on Tuesday, he spent the same amount of money and just bought donuts. Okay, so on Tuesday, he spent the same amount, but he just bought donuts. So he didn't buy newspaper, donuts. Well, the donuts, does it tell us how many donuts? No, so it doesn't tell us how many donuts, and it still does not talk about the cost per donut. So this Tuesday total is actually going to be the number of donuts multiplied by the cost per donut. Now that doesn't look too friendly, does it? But this is what's going to make this problem a little bit more complicated, and we just have to save this for the end. So it's like the grand finale. So on Tuesday, he spent the same amount of money and just bought donuts. Okay, so that's this right here, and that's kind of like the grand finale. Okay, so when we have an equation like this, we know that the total cost is the same. He spent the same on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So what that means is this total cost right here for Sunday is actually the same total cost as it is for Monday. So we can actually set these equal because Sunday equals Monday. So Sunday, the cost for Sunday is $1.25 plus 2C, and that is actually the same as the cost for Monday, and the cost for Monday was 0.50. The total amount that they spent was here. And then we just have a multi-step equation where we need to combine like terms. So let's go ahead and get the C's on the same side and move the smaller, which would be 2C. And we're left with 125 equals 0.5 plus, that would be 3C. And, okay, we're just going to get the C by itself, so we need to get rid of this 0.5 to both sides. 125 minus 0. I'm going to put that up here. 0. Oh, shoot. My bad. 125.5 subtract 5 be 7, so 75 cents. And then that cancels. Then get divided by 3, and that would be, I know that 75 cents is made up of 3/4, so it's 0.25. Well, that means that the cost, C equals the cost per donut. The cost per donut was 25 cents. So awesome. Okay, that kind of helps us out a little bit because it says how many, we found out what C is. That is great. But what are we trying to figure out in this problem? In the problem, we are trying to figure out how many donuts did he buy on Tuesday. So we're trying to figure out the number. We're not trying to figure out the cost. We found out the cost is right here. So if I go back to our Tuesday, we have Tuesday equals the number of donuts. Well, we don't know that, but we do know that the cost per donut is 0.25. It's 25 cents per donut. So that's nice. We figured out that one value and we substituted that in. Now, how can we figure out this? This is hard because right now we have Tuesday, the total cost spent on Tuesday, and then we have the number of donuts. So these are two variables in the same equation. What we have to do is we have to figure out a way to put in a value. So can we figure out the number of donuts that he bought on Tuesday, or can we figure out the total cost that he spent on Tuesday? And I think we have a better chance of figuring out what the actual total cost was Because what we know is we know that they spent the same amount on Sunday as they spent on Monday as they spent on Tuesday. So if we can figure out what the total cost was for Monday or Sunday, really, then we actually know what the total cost is for Tuesday. We could substitute that value in there and then solve it and figure out what D is. So the next step in this equation would be to figure out what the total cost was for either Sunday or Monday, and that's written right here. Sunday's cost is this, Monday's cost is this. All we need to do is substitute, now that we know C, substitute this 25 cents in for either here or here. It really doesn't matter which equation we use because they both cost the same. So let's just go ahead and do the Sunday one. So I'm going to write the original equation for that. Sunday equals 125 plus 2 times 25 cents. Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. C equals 1. I meant to say write the original equation, and then I didn't even write it. Okay, so there's the original equation. We're substituting 25 cents in for C right there. And then S equals 125 plus 2 times 25 would be, 50 cents. And then 50 cents plus 125 would be 175. So that's how much they spent on Sunday, which means that's how much they spent on Monday, that's how much they spent on Tuesday. So now we know the total cost for Tuesday, which is 175 equals D multiplied by 0.25. And now we can just solve for D. So we are going to divide both sides by 0.25. And I'm going to do that up here. 175 divided by 0.25, and whenever we're dividing by decimals, we have to remember we can never divide by decimals, so we have to make this non-decimal. So that move this over 2 places, move this decimal over 2 places, we get 25 divided by 175. 25 goes into 175 how many times? Well, it goes into 104 times, and then 75 3, so it'd be 4 plus 3 is 7. 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 3 would be 17. So there you go. It goes in 7 times. So that means that they bought 7 donuts on Tuesday. So on Tuesday, Jamie bought 7, because D is equal to the number of donuts, 7 donuts. Woo-wee, that was an interesting equation. That was a lot. There was a lot going on. So just remember to break this down. So now it's time for you guys to check it out. Try out example 4. Our friend, the Paz Dragon, he's coming along to remind you to pause it, work it out, come back, and then we will talk about it in a little bit. All right, see ya. Okay. We are back. This says Helene, is that how you spell it? Helene walks the same distance every day. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, she walks 2 laps on the track and then walks 4 miles. Oh, okay, on Tuesday and Thursdays, she walks 2 laps on the track and then walks 4 miles. All right. On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, she walks 4 laps on the track and then walks 2 miles. On Saturdays, she just walks laps. How many laps does she walk on Saturdays? Okay, so let's go ahead and define our variable. So let's look at the question. It says, how many laps does she walk on Saturdays? So let's just say let L equal the number of laps. Does she walk on Saturdays? Well, I don't know if that's a number of laps. She walks on Saturdays. She walks on Saturdays. Okay, so that's one thing we don't know. How many laps she walks on Saturdays? L. Okay.